What is up everyone, Hero276 here and welcome to today's video and welcome back to my channel. Earlier today I put out a poll asking whether I should feature Hisuian and Kanto Arcanine or my rank 19 TYPHLOSION that I got in Community Day. And one person voted on the poll, but that one person voted for the rank 19 TYPHLOSION. So that's exactly what we're going to be featuring in today's video. TYPHLOSION is a pure fire type Pokemon, and the moveset I'm running is Incinerate, Blast Burn, and Thunder Punch. For the team, I have a Charjabug on the lead and a Gligar in the back. So on the whole, this team is very weak to Mud Boys, but we're able to play around it as you'll see. The team did quite well. I had about a 73% win rate with the team, so you're more than welcome to try it out for yourself at any time. But before we dive into that, I just want to give a special shout out to my Spotify page. If you're enjoying the music used in this video and other videos, please be sure to check out my Spotify where you can access my music for free. That being said, let's jump right into today's video. And we are starting today's video off with the lead Charjabug into Quagsire. It was during this battle actually I realized that this team as a whole really struggled up against the Mud Boys. But no fear, we're going to play this one out and we're going to go for the X-Scissor. X-Scissor will do quite a lot of damage onto the Quagsire. The opponent builds up and throws on alignment. So I'm going to be tempted to shield this. The opponent baits with the Mud Bomb. I'm going to go here for the X-Scissor again. X-Scissor will be forcing a shield from my opponent. My opponent throws once again on alignment, giving the Charjabug a full Volt Switch for free. This time they land the Stone Edge, but it's not enough to KO. I'm going to go here for the X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to KO, and my opponent does decide to give me alignment. I immediately pivot into the Gligar, but I'm met with a Skarmory, and I'm in trouble. Gligar here does not do very well, and not to mention I'm switch locked. The opponent has no incentive to switch out of this matchup too, so they're likely going to have their whole switch timer to themselves. My opponent goes for the Sky Attack. No point in shielding this. Gonna go here for the Dig. It's single resisted and it doesn't do a lot of damage. What I'm hoping though is it puts it in Incinerate range here for the TYPHLOSION. TYPHLOSION's gonna enter the battlefield. After I wait my switch clock, the opponent is going to make it to a final charge move. I'm going to shield this up, of course, because TYPHLOSION cannot take a hit. They go for the Sky Attack. Opponent sends in Annihilate, and I do have a chance to win this game as long as I get a catch. I fail the catch, and now it comes down to, do I survive a counter? If I survive this next counter and get the shield with the Thunder Punch, I should be able to win the game, but my opponent KOs with the counter, and I end up losing. Hopping into game number 2, picking up a lead Charjabug into Shadow Feraligatr, a much better lead for us. The opponent is actually going to stay in this matchup. They eventually switch out after taking a bunch of Volt Switch damage, and I make a mistake as they send in a Shadow Jumpluff, and I respond here with the TYPHLOSION. I really should be sending in the Gligar because Gligar can tank a hit. As you can see, TYPHLOSION cannot, but at the very least I'm able to make it to 2 Thunder Punches. So I'm going to be able to guarantee both shields or switch here. The opponent shields up the first Thunder Punch, I get the second off. They will likely be shielding this one up, and they're just going to take their switch advantage here. But I have 2 shields set up for my back line. I'm going to send in the Gligar because Gligar with the shield advantage should be able to actually take care of the Feraligatr because the Shadow Feraligatr is pretty classy. What I'm going to look to do is shield up this first move. The opponent goes straight for the Acrobatics, and I do get the Wing Attack farm down. The opponent is going to be waiting their clock here. They send in the Feraligatr. I try to go for the Snipe, but the game forces an overtap, and they catch my discharge onto a Goodra. Definitely not ideal and a huge misplay by me, but let's see if it affects the end game. Gonna go for the X-Scissor. The opponent takes quite a bit of damage from that. The opponent will be firing off their next charge move. Aqua Tail not going to KO from this health range, and I'm going to choose not to throw my energy. The reason being is because I need energy on the Gligar, especially for that Feraligatr in the back. The opponent's going to be throwing an Aqua Tail. Can I get the farm down in time? Gligar gets the farm down. Back in comes the Feraligatr. They do reach a Hydro Cannon, but they need 2 to KO here because I still have a shield. So the farm down ended up being the correct play, as now I have the back-to-back digs. Dig number 1 does substantial damage. Dig number 2 is going to be massive overkill, and we take the win. The good leads continue in the next match as we lead into a Golbat. Charge a Bug with access to Volt Switch does very well here. The opponent will be trying to catch my charge move onto a Swampert, and I pretty much have to stay in here. And this actually isn't too bad of a situation for me, because I'm up energy, and this Swampert's fairly glassy, so really all I have to do is just match shields, and I should be able to preserve alignment. One Hydro Cannon is not going to put me in farm down range either, so they're not going to be able to Mudshot farm me down. They shield up, so that means in return I'm going to be shielding as well. The opponent fires off a Hydro Cannon, but that's perfectly okay by me. I'm going to overfarm. I fire off the X-Scissor. This will KO the Swampert from this health range. The opponent decides not to invest any more shields, and I leave fairly low here too, so the Golbat shouldn't get in too much farm. I'm able to get off a parting X-Scissor. Let's see if my opponent knows their counts. X-Scissor grabs the final shield from the opponent, and we are set up. I'm going to send in Gligar. Gligar, going to call the bait here. Most Golbats love to Poison Fang first. I call the bait. It is the Poison Fang, so a very nice call on my part. I lose CMP on the Aerial Ace. I'm not too mad about this because I still can survive a Shadow Ball. And now I get off my Aerial Ace, and after this lands, I'm going to try for an Incinerate Sneak. Aerial Ace going to connect. I decide to send in the Typhlosion. My opponent switches out at the last minute into a Machamp, and this game is over. Blast Burn is going to Flame Char the Machamp, and it's just the Golbat in the back. I get the Incinerate through, farm down, and take the win. My opponents cannot catch a break. We lead into Mantine in the next match, and this is just terrific. The opponent is staying in as well. They've got to be core broken in the back. They send in Gligar. I send in Typhlosion, but they throw an alignment, and this gives me a free Incinerate, meaning I should be able to now dictate switch advantage. As well, they full send the dig. I'm now going to bait here with the Thunder Punch. I shield it. I'm expecting them to shield. They end up calling the bait, and that's super frustrating, as now I'm going to throw the Blast Burn, so a definite misplay by me. Luckily, the opponent still lets it go through, and they're totally fine conceding switch advantage. So now, they send in Azumarill, and this is basically just going to be a Charge a Bug sweep. I go for the Thunder Punch to get the shield back. Can I make it to a second Thunder Punch? Typhlosion banks the energy for later, sends in Gligar. I decided to send in the Gligar here because I don't really need it. Much of the game is going to depend on the Charge-a-Bug or the Typhlosion stored energy if needed, so I just felt as though the Gligar was just a sitting duck, so I decided to sacrifice it to the Pokemon gods. Anyways, in comes Charge-a-Bug. Charge-a-Bug here feeling very comfortable with stored energy and a discharge ready to go. The opponent shields up the discharge, I overfarm, throw on good timing, and I get off the next discharge. Discharge here is going to nearly KO. The Azumarill decides to throw their energy. I'm going to let this go through. It is only the Play Rough. I'm going to be able to farm down. It's only the Mantine in the back, and I make it safely to a discharge. Discharge will more than KO from this health range, and we take the win. Hopping into the final game of this set, picking up a lead into Trevenant. Two better responses in the back, so I'm going to send in the Gligar first. Gligar will be met with Azumarill. So this is pretty much worst case scenario, but I'm actually totally okay with this if I can get a shield. The opponent gives up a shield, and that's perfect. I just need to get rid of this Azumarill with the Charge-a-Bug, and I should set up Typhlosion here for a sweep. The Ice Beam is going to go through, knocking out the Gligar, but I send in Charge-a-Bug. I'm going to overload on a bunch of energy. The opponent is going to throw the Ice Beam. It's not going to do a lot of damage. As well, I'm totally fine with tanking Azumarill's energy onto Charge-a-Bug, where Charge-a-Bug is very bulky. I decide to go for the discharge, and I get both shields. This is actually phenomenal. So now, I'm going to go ahead, go for the discharge. It does not KO. I go for the Incinerate Snipe with Typhlosion. I do not get it. I decide to let this go through because Ice Beam will not do a ton of damage, so a very good call on my part. The opponent sends in a Vigoroth. Vigoroth here going to be met with the Blast Burn, and while this will not KO, it will do substantial damage. The opponent is going to throw their energy. I'm going to shield this up, of course, as Body Slam would KO. They just have the Trevenant, but I make it to the Blast Burn. Blast Burn will melt the Trevenant, and we take the win. So a very nice recovery, winning those last 4 games to polish off a nice 4-1. But don't go anywhere, we have a couple of bonus battles for you today, so definitely stay tuned for those. As for the Hisuian Arcanine and the Kanto Arcanine showcase, I'll be uploading those on a later date. Hopping into the first of 3 bonus battles, picking up an excellent lead into Poliwrath. The opponent will be staying in this matchup. This is not a good matchup here for the Poliwrath. I throw the discharge right away, and this denies my opponent the opportunity to debuff me early. They shield up, they throw right away as well, giving me the Volt Switch, and this gives me the indication that it's just an Icy Wind. They would have thrown one more counter to be able to reach the Scald, but they only get it off on 7. So I'm able to call it. I go for the discharge, debuffed, picks out the knockout. My opponent sends in Wigglytuff, I send in the Gligar, they switch out into a Toxapex, and this is game over. Gonna be able to connect here with the Dig. That'll do about half of Toxapex's HP. My opponent surrenders, and that is game, set, and match. Hopping into the next bonus battle, picking up a lead into Jumpluff. 2 better responses in the back, so I'm going to switch here into my Gligar. The opponent will be staying in this matchup, and they're allowing me to get off an Aerial Ace. Jumpluff is going to commit the shield. I'm now inclined to preserve health on my Gligar. Considering they're staying in and shielding, they must not have a good response in the back. I end up shielding up an Energy Ball. I'm going to overfarm here, go for the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will do some very solid damage, but it will not KO. My opponent will be able to make it to one more charge move. I'm going to let this go through as well. An Energy Ball won't be too damaging, so I'm going to let that through. The opponent is incapable of farming down, but they do make it to another charge move. I'm going to let this one go through. Aerial Ace not enough to pick up the knockout. Gligar is very low, but we do preserve alignment and have a lot of residual energy. They send in Skeledirge, I throw the Dig goes unshielded, and they basically just lost their whole Skeledirge. I can now send in the Charge-a-Bug, it's Toxicroak in the back, and this game is over. The opponent definitely had the ability to win there with the Skeledirge. I have no idea why they didn't shield up the Dig. Perhaps they thought I didn't react in time, but either way, I should be in a winning position. Charge-a-Bug is going to farm up and throw the Discharge. Discharge will pick up the knockout onto the very glassy Toxicroak. It's just the low health Skeledirge in the back. I send in Typhlosion, get the full Incinerate farm down, and take the win. And hopping into the final battle of the day, picking up a lead into Gligar. Abandon ship immediately. I'm going to be pivoting into my own Gligar, and this is actually a pretty terrible lead on my part. So I'm going to look to do my best here. Aerial Ace, because it is the Shadow, will do incrementally more damage, and it'll be to the point where 2 Aerial Aces come very close to knocking out and into farm down range. So I'm going to go for my own Aerial Ace. My opponent actually gives the shield, and they switch out of the matchup way too late into a Shadow Feraligatr. Now Feraligatr gets hit with the Dig. That does a lot of damage. They overfarm very nicely, throwing the Hydro Cannon just before I make it to my next charge move. Hydro Cannon picks up the knockout, but from here I could just throw one Volt Switch and pick up the knockout with the Charge-a-Bug. Now I have a health advantage Charge-a-Bug versus a Gligar that comes in. Now, because of the health advantage here, I should be able to do some pretty substantial damage here with my resisted damage. They go for the Dig, but health on Charge-a-Bug is not important. I still have the Typhlosion in the back. Gonna go here for the X-Scissor. X-Scissor will get them low, and I'm hoping that I can put them into Incinerate range. So I'm going to go for the next X-Scissor here, switch out into Typhlosion, looking for the Snipe, and we are 0 for 3 on Snipes. That's so unfortunate. My opponent gets off a parting Aerial Ace. I will commit the shield, and they get damage registration error as well. That hurts. They full send the Dig, but I shield that up, and in the back is Poliwrath, and you might think that this is game over, but this is where Thunder Punch comes in handy. 2 Thunder Punches are going to safely KO from this health range. Typhlosion flips the script, KOs the Water-type Poliwrath, and we take the win. Overall, the games I lost, I was either core broken or I didn't leave Typhlosion enough shields to sweep. But as I got my groove with the team, you see that Typhlosion has massive sweep potential. With the 2 Pokemon like Gligar and Charge-a-Bug to pressure shields early, Typhlosion was left to reign supreme in the back, and it really caused a lot of havoc in those situations. Otherwise, if your opponent has shields, good luck. This thing cannot take charge moves very well. It doesn't even sponge heavy damage fast moves that well, and Incinerate doesn't do enough damage to farm down unless the Pokemon that you're going up against is double weak. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.